All right, 40K enthusiasts, incoming question. Fritz, proxy models. What's the deal in 40K? How are they utilized? Can I utilize them? So for the most part, this is going to be influenced by your local meta, a tournament scene, house rules, who you play with, and to a secondary extent, just what the heck are we proxying? Now, in 40K, we have a lot of creativity in terms of, well, look at Space Marines. The different chapters, the different ways to paint them. If we look at vehicles, the different customizations you can do. But essentially, 40K being a visual game, it's WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. If I have a Marine carrying a bolter, that's a bolter. It's not a melt-a-gun on there. You can have some customization in terms of weapons and war gear, but essentially as a player, I should be able to look at your army and recognize the vehicles, recognize the infantry, and understand what they're carrying, because that is going to determine my tactics, and that is just what makes the narrative look good. We're here playing the Grimdark. A proxy is where you are taking another model, or you're taking another representation of that model and standing in for it. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. Consider these two vastly different options on there, both coming from real-life experience. You're playing against one army that is Imperial Guard, but all the Imperial Guard models have been replaced with orcs. It's kind of like the orc-looted Imperial Guard army. But all the vehicles look like Imperial Guard vehicles. The Leman Russes, they've been orcified, but they're Leman Russes. All the chimeras are chimeras. The melta guns and plasma guns are actually melta and plasma guns on there. And the orcs are all kind of wearing flak armor. We've just replaced Humies with orcs on there. That is a proxy army. That is a custom army. I loved playing against that army. It looked amazing. It was a lot of fun. But there was 100% you knew what you were facing. They just looked like orcs. Now consider this other army that I played against. A bunch of Tau legs glued to bases, and a bunch of suit legs glued to bases. Bases weren't even based. They were just the metal, the plastic GW bases on there. And this group over here to the left was Fire Warriors. This group over to the right was this type of suits. This group over here were Pathfinders. Dude, they're all just bases of legs on there. But we still played the game, and it was quite frustrating just trying to keep track and remember what it is. Now, those are two vast differences. I would rule and say a proxy army needs to look, or a proxy unit needs to look like what it's facing. Two other examples on here, and then we'll kind of sum it up. Another friend of mine has a Chaos Lord. Chaos Lord is riding some sort of crazy mutated spawn. It's got some weird and wacky war gear. He plays it sometimes as a Chaos Lord, sometimes as a sorcerer, sometimes it's just a spawn. It can be all three. At the beginning of the game, he's very, very clear. He's very clear that this is what this is going to be for this game. But again, it's so well done and it looks so great. It could be any one of those things, but it doesn't switch midway through. And then there might be a proxy situation where, let's say you're playing Imperial Guard and you've got a generic Leman Russ, but you're playing with some tactics and you're kind of experimenting around, and you say to your opponent, I certainly paid the points. For this game, I'm going to play this Leman Russ as this variant of a Russ. And even though it doesn't have that variant, you want to experiment. That's another type of proxy that's in there. You want to kind of try out some things before you commit to the models with it. So what would be acceptable? What's not acceptable? I believe I have no problem playing against proxy armies or playing against proxies as long as it's not overly difficult for me to remember what it is. I don't want to play against Tau-based legs. And as long as it's consistent. So it's not just going to get mixed in, or you're not going to switch back and forth, or you're not going to tell me what's in your list. Meaning at the beginning of the game, you pull out a stock Leman Russ, and then halfway through, I'm advancing halfway through the game, you're like, okay, it's actually a Leman Russ Punisher. Like, no, it's not. But tell me at the beginning of the game that, hey, I've got a couple of proxies in here. Here's what I'm thinking. So if it's not unreasonable for me to know what it is and you explain it and I don't have to feel like I'm being cheated, then I'm cool. Experiment with the proxies. Play around. Maybe you're looking to add to your army. Maybe you're looking to take things in a different direction. Maybe you've developed your army with the most options. A number of years back, it was very popular to be, because Games Workshop was not updating codexes very fast. Some codexes they did update. They threw some good rules here and there. So it was very popular in the tournament scene to build a custom count-as army. So type of chaos armies or types of marine armies that you could play as a chaos army, you could play as space wolves, you could play as generic marines, you could play as gray knights. You had the ability to kind of switch back and forth. Again, these were so well done in terms of conversion and paint and modeling. No one would have any problem playing a army that could fit into any codex or any type of list on there. Your thoughts on proxies, your thoughts on how they're utilized in your local meta, and your thoughts on what place do they have in a game system that is very, very much what you see is what you get.